You guys are from Maine, you get lots of snow. When I grew up in Pennsylvania, we get snow. Rock salt, right? We throw rock salt out. Nobody's going to take rock salt and put it on their table, right? And use it for salt on your table. I mean, that would be ridiculous. Good morning. It is fantastic to be here. I probably am not going to be worth my money because my wife is not here. She is the one who's worth all of that. But she is, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it later, but she is in the midst of, this is a strange furlough for us. We are going back to South Africa as empty nesters. And so this is a big goodbye furlough for us and things. So she's getting that one last little weekend and getting our youngest daughter settled because we leave Wednesday for South Africa. So I'm looking forward to heading home, but it's also a little strange going back by ourselves. But it's just neat to see what God is doing through all of those things and what He's going, what the privilege that we have had to be able to do this. I'm going to show you some pictures. So just kind of give you nobody told me what time I was supposed to be done. I asked Sean. Sean said, "Go as long as you want." But I also know that there's a potluck, so I am not touching the potluck. I am a fan. Obviously, I am a fan of potlucks, and we have nothing like that in South Africa. Type of thing, but there is no pictures up there. Oh, there we go. All right. So let me just show you a few. I want to kind of give you a little bit of an update of what's going on and what we've been going through. So this is our newest family picture. So we have 2 grandkids now. It's amazing. I love being a grandparent. This is the best thing ever and things. So we have 2, our last, so it's Sarah and Maddie. Maddie was born Christmas Day. She was scheduled for a C-section. I think it was like the 30th, but she decided Christmas Day was her day. And so she was born that day. So there you see my Brandon and Brianna and our 2 grandkids. They are missionaries in Taiwan. And so they're currently in Georgia at the moment raising support to head back to Taiwan as missionaries there to basically do what I do in South Africa. They want to do that in Taiwan. And then our 2 on the other end is the 2 daughters. Marissa is currently at Word of Life, Florida, working at the camp and hoping to stay after and work at the Bible Institute. And then Maya, our youngest, is getting ready to go to the Bible Institute in September, and then on from there. And so that's kind of just gives you a bit of an update of where we all are. So all of that on this particular furlough, and then Mary and I heading back on our own. I always tell people to be a little extra prayer for Mary. The kids were always the buffer between me and her and my craziness and her having to deal with it. Now there's no buffer. She's just got to focus on me. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll see how she pans out going through all of that. Now, if you're not familiar with Word of Life, our purpose is every young person everywhere hearing the gospel or taking their next step with Jesus Christ, whether it be the gospel or discipleship. And so we want to see kids progress in their relationship with God. And that's what we do. That's the core of what we are trying to accomplish, not only here in the States, but also in South Africa and every other country we are around the world. And so that's kind of our vision, and we are doing that through local churches. So you'll see through evangelism, discipleship, and with youth through various different means, but it's all done through the local church. And so we partner with churches in a variety of different ways, just helping them to better impact and better connect and better help those young people take that next step in their faith. And so we love being involved in all of those type of things in ministry. So this is just a little background about Mary and I. We were accepted with Word of Life in 1995. We went to South Africa in 2001. And in 2012 is when we headed to Durban. You guys joined us just before the 2012, a couple of years before we left for Durban. And that's where we are now. So we've been in South Africa for a little over 25 years now. We've been with Word of Life for 31 years. And it's just amazing to me. I can't believe it's been that long, and I can't wait to continue on and seeing where God is going to take all of this and where we're going to end up through all of this. The verse that you see there is kind of Mary and I's life verse. This is what we have always held on to from the very beginning of our ministry. And if you just kind of look at the very end, the bold words there, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. We find that in 2 Timothy 2:1 and 2. Our desire has always been to pass on the ministry of Word of Life, but pass on the love for Christ and to pass on that information, to do discipleship. Our model of discipleship has always been moving people into our home, and we want them to be connected with us. And we've seen that, and we've been able to do that. One of the greatest things about being involved for so long is we've seen people who, as young people, accept Christ, and then go through that journey, and now are doing things for the Lord and serving God, and dare I say, some are now on staff with Word of Life in South Africa, and things like that. So it's just a great opportunity for us to do that, and to see what God is doing through that. Now, one of the newest things that we've been involved in this, you guys know John and Christy Page, or you're probably familiar with the name. They were our country directors for a good long time and loved having them. Then they got bumped up to the regional director, so now they're in charge of Africa and the Middle East. Well, when John got to that spot and he started looking around and he started realizing that some of the other Word of Life missionaries in Africa weren't quite ready for some of the jobs and didn't have all the information that they needed. So John came to Mary and I and asked us to partner with them in reaching out to the other Word of Life missionaries throughout Africa. Somehow, some way, I have become older. I'm not old yet. I'm not there. I am older. All right? You know when you become old, right? You just kind of know that. I am not there yet. But I am older, and therefore I have quite a bit of experience somehow, and I have a lot of information and a lot of things to share. So they've asked us to help mentor some of the Word of Life missionaries throughout the continent of Africa in the Middle East. So this is a new part of our ministry, something new that we have been involved in. And so you can see there the information on the screen. There's 12 established countries. That's where we have Word of Life missionaries in that country, and they're working. And then we'll have 7 ongoing ministries. So that's ministries where there isn't a Word of Life missionary there, but there's ministry happening in that country. And then we have 11 targeted countries where there is no one and no ministry happening, and that we're trying to target. And obviously, we don't talk much about the Middle East, just because we're not really supposed to. But Africa, just there. And so this has become a great part of our ministry. This furlough has kind of been one of the weirdest ones because of this role. So we work in the morning, all of our Africa stuff, because they're awake. And so by 12 o'clock or so, it'll be anywhere between 6 and 8 o'clock for them. So they're pretty much finished. And so then we go to our U.S. stuff. And so we're kind of always on it. And I love technology, but I also kind of hate it because it's not like a normal furlough. we don't come back and just sit around. We've been busy the whole time, and it's been really exciting to see all of this. But to be able to get involved in some of this mentoring and being involved in this relationship, and we're actually even looking at bringing some of the Word of Life missionaries from the different countries into South Africa for us to be able to train them in Durban and then send them home and things. It's not, and I don't want you to get the impression that they're not prepared or they're not ready. They just don't understand all of the resources. Mary and I grew up in Word of Life. It's like people ask me, how long you been with Word of Life? I'll say since birth. That's all I know. And so I've experienced it, I've seen it, and I know what's being issued and given out here in the United States and what's being sent out. And Word of Life has done a fantastic job of taking what used to be very U.S.-based material and making it very internationally friendly. But still a lot of it doesn't quite translate over. And that's really a big part of what this particular job is just to help them better understand the resources that they have and to prepare them and to help them and to train them to do that. And so we really have been enjoying this new aspect of our ministry. Now, this is Josh Michele. He should somewhat sound familiar, maybe. I don't know if he looks familiar. But you guys sponsored him to go to the Word Life Bible Institute in Uganda and do some of his internship. And so now he is Word of Life staff with me in Durban. I love that because, remember, I'm getting older. I don't quite keep up the way I used to. He's young. He can run and crazy and do all kinds of stuff. I mean, just look at the hair, right? Just the hair is all you need to look at, right? But Josh is one of those stories, and I loved one of the worship people was saying, that's my story, that's your story. Josh's story, he started off in a local church. He went to youth group for two reasons, right? And most of us will relate to this. He went for girls, and he went for food, right? I mean, good Baptist people, right? Okay, good young man. So he started going to the church for those reasons. And he found Jesus, and he accepted Christ, and he got involved, and he started doing the different things within the church there and with Word of Life. And then you'll see that he went to the Discipleship Training Center. So he was discipled, and he was trained through Word of Life and given some Bible information. Then he became an intern with Word of Life. And then this is where you guys got involved. He went to the Word of Life Bible Institute, and then he became a Word of Life missionary in Durban. I love that story because it's start to finish. It's not even start to finish. It's start to who knows where God's going to take it. But he was taught and discipled, and he lived with John and Christy on the weekends. If you ask John, he'll say, Josh moved into our refrigerator, is where he lived. So now he lives with us, so he basically lives in our refrigerator now. I don't know how that worked out. But just be praying for Josh. He is in the process of raising support as a missionary, and it's really difficult for these guys in South Africa to be able to do that. He is up to a level now where he can take care of his necessities of life. So he has housing and he has food. Beyond that, it's not much. So I can't actually give him as much as I would like to give him work to do because he needs to be raising support. But I love stories like this, and I love seeing what God has done there. Here's another one. This young lady, Valerie, she is a young lady that my wife has been working with. She is super quiet and very shy, and pretty new in her faith. She actually went to one of the events that we do for kids. She was a helper, but she was there, and that's where she accepted Christ, as a helper for a kids event, and she accepted Christ there. And we were challenging them to share their faith, to take their faith and go a little bit, take it a step further, and to share their faith. And she did something on social media and was like, well, nobody will ever read it. It'll get lost in the mix of everything. And so she sent something to her friends, and all of a sudden they all started asking her questions. And so my wife is usually part of this story. She tells this one. At 12, at 1 o'clock, Valerie's sending her message. Well, they're asking me this question. What do I say? And so they were working through all of this. But that's the phrase that she used. It is really great feeling to be saved by Jesus. And it is even greater feeling to watch another person get saved. And just to see her in that walk, to see her be a part of what it is that she is doing there and her leading other people. Another one is Lambert Road Baptist Church. This is one of the churches that I recently started working with. I met the pastor there. He was 74 years old, and he was supposed to be retired. And he said, I took the church because I needed to, and I wanted to. And he said, Brad, to be honest with you, I'm bringing the average age of this church down by joining. And so it was a very old church, and it's a very old building. But they had a group of young people that they didn't know what to do with. And so I've been able to partner with them and help them develop their youth ministry and get involved. And they're actually in probably, I would say, one of the best locations ever. They're completely surrounded on 3 sides. The road's out there, completely surrounded by a school. Kids are everywhere all the time. And that's where the church is. What a great opportunity to get involved in youth ministry. So there's a lot of older people. I'm going to say older because I shouldn't say old. But hint, hint, nod, nod, old people in that church. But they love the young people. They do all kinds of things just to help the youth ministry. This particular picture, the kids were memorizing verses, and the whole church came to celebrate as they were sharing their verses and just celebrating them. So love getting involved in a church like that. This is a young man, and I'm telling you a bunch of stories because I want you to know what we're doing. All of these stories are not old stories. They're all stories that have happened within our last term. So in our last 3 years of being gone. And so we're just seeing what God is doing in the lives of these people. This is Samunga. He actually goes to the church that we attend. And Samunga didn't live in our area for a long time, for most of his life. And about in 2014, I think it was not that, 4 years ago, we had some major flooding in South Africa, in the Durban area, to the point where like 500 people lost their lives. He and his family were in an informal settlement, not much of a house, and they decided at one point, like, okay, it's getting bad, we need to leave. So they were walking out, and he said, literally, we got about, I'm going to try to translate the feet, about 30 feet away, and their house just washed away. It was gone. So, they were literally moments from probably death. And they moved in with his grandmother, who was in our area, and our youth at our church started reaching out to Samunga and started reaching out to his family. And Samunga got saved. And he'll tell you, God caused that flood and took out our house so that I would move to this area so that I could meet Jesus. And again, he is a quiet, and I want to say shy guy. He is kind of shy, but he is an evangelist. And if you've ever met an evangelist, they can't stop talking when it comes to sharing the gospel. And it's such a bizarre thing when you meet Samunga. He's very quiet. He's one of those ones, Sean will understand this. We Americans say, huh? Right? If you can't hear, huh? We don't do that in South Africa. We say sorry. So it's, more polite. I don't know if we're just more formal at that. I'm always saying sorry. Sorry? What? Sorry? I can't hear you. And he's super, super quiet. But man, we take him out on evangelism. He is just all over the place. And he's sharing the gospel with as many people as he possibly can. And it's just such an amazing transformation in his life. And I can't wait to see what God actually does with him, through him, going through all of those things and being involved. All right, so that's the last story. And I wanted to share those stories because my key thing in all of this is God has used us, Mary and I and our family, to influence these young people, to be involved in this. And the story thing, this is their stories. And I love being a part of their stories. But what I want you to understand most importantly through all of this is you guys are a part of their story. Every one of those people that we have been involved with over the 25 plus years, you guys are involved in those stories because we are all influencing in different ways. You guys have been supporting us, allowing us to accomplish all of those things and be involved in that ministry there, and you are involved in their life stories. So we're all doing this together. We all have influence. If you have your Bibles, turn to Matthew chapter 5. And I only have 10 minutes. We're gonna run our way through all of this. So as you're turning there, what I want you to recognize, I want you to understand is the power that we have for influence. A lot of times we'll use the word discipleship. A lot of the times we'll use mentoring, or we'll use a lot of these words. But we are always influencing people. Sometimes it's for good influence, and sometimes it's a bad influence, right? Everybody influences everybody. Doesn't matter if you sit in the back of the church, or you sit in the balcony. Somebody's watching you, right? Parents, our kids watch us. Grandparents, everybody's watching. People at work, everywhere you go, people are watching you. I'm a people watcher. I love doing that. And so people are influencing. You are being influenced. And we need to be a positive influence in the lives of people. And so that's what Mary and I have been trying to do over our years in South Africa. But it's more than that. It's more than just in South Africa. It's everyday life. We as believers need to be a positive influence in causing people to understand and reach out for Christ. So if you know this passage, Matthew 5, chapters 5 through 7 is the Sermon on the Mount. The very first 12 verses of chapter 5 is the Beatitudes. So it's about our relationship with God. And then he gets into verses 13 through 16, which is our relationship with others. All right? And I think it's important to recognize the order of this passage. Jesus started off with our relationship with him, right? So our relationship with him needs to be in the right place before we start working with other people, okay? So it's important to recognize just the order of that, going through all of that, because it is important for us to be ready to share. And we need to know the Word of God so that we can answer those questions, right? You don't have to turn here, but look at, it's on the screen, 1 Peter 3:15 says this, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks for the reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." So yesterday was a bit of a nightmare traveling for me. Started off at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I think I arrived at like 10:30. So American Airlines, I'm not sure. If you work for American Airlines, I don't know. It was pretty bad, okay? But my last flight coming to Bangor, there was a whole bunch of us, and American Airlines. They sent us, we were supposed to be at this gate. They sent us to another gate. We all get to that gate. And then when we got there, they said, "Oh, no, go back to the other gate." And so, it's like a 15-minute walk between the gates. And people are getting a little grumpy, right? And I'm a pretty relaxed guy, and so I'm walking with a couple of these guys, and I have a sweatshirt that, I don't know if you've seen them on the internet, "You Are Enough," one of those sweatshirts where you see that, and I'm wearing that, and people are commenting me, and people are upset and getting frustrated, and I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty easygoing. I'm like, we'll get there eventually, it's all right. But I had a great gospel conversation through all of that. I had a great opportunity to answer questions, because why aren't you upset? Well, let me tell you why I'm not upset, And that's what that verse is talking about. We need to be ready to give an answer for the hope that is in us. And I love the last couple of words there, with gentleness and respect. That will come up. It's not really a part of my sermon. That's way a side note, but keep an eye on that. In that passage, Jesus also talks about salt and light. Salt and light were common things that they understood. Another thing in this passage, it says you are the salt and you are the light. You are not becoming, or you might be, or you're like. You are salt and you are light. That's what we have been called as Christians to be. We are to be salt. We are to be the light, going through all of that. And it's about our ability to influence people. That's what he's getting through in this. Look at verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trodden under people's feet. Right? So you guys are from Maine, you get lots of snow. When I grew up in Pennsylvania, we get snow. Rock salt, right? We throw rock salt out. Nobody's going to take rock salt and put it on their table, right? And use it for salt on your table. I mean, that would be ridiculous. And that's kind of the idea in this. Jesus basically saying, why would salt lose its flavor? That's ridiculous thought. Why would we as Christians lose our ability to influence others? It's a ridiculous thought. But he's asking the rhetorical question because he wants them to think about where they are. And we need to do the same thing. I love in that passage, lost its taste. It's only used 4 times in the New Testament. It literally means to make or become foolish, to act as a simpleton. It's not polite to say you're a fool from the pulpit or to say that you're simple from the pulpit. But Jesus said that. He was saying that Christians who lose their savor, their flavor for Christ, are in fact fools themselves. Right? It's a ridiculous thought that we would walk away from the influence or being the positive influence that we should be. Now, let me quickly kind of talk about salt a little bit, and that's all I'm going to get time for. I'll be finished before this. Salt gives taste. You ever watch one of those TV shows with the cooking shows, and the chef says, "Oh, it's terrible. There's no flavor," right? It's because they didn't add enough seasoning. They didn't add enough salt. Well, that's what Jesus is saying to us. You are to be the salt. You are to add the flavor to this world. So we need to be here in order to kind of make people think about or to see how gracious God is. I started reading a book yesterday. Well, had lots of time on the plane and things. Started reading a book, and it was about the wonder of God. We have the wonder of God and all the things that he has done, and we are to have that influence in the world around us. We are to season the world with God. Sprinkle a little salt here, sprinkle a little, and just bring people to God so that they can see what God is doing. And if I could say, make life a little tasty, right? Make life a little tasty. The other one is salt is a preservative. And I'm in Maine, so I'm not, you guys probably get this better than I do. They used to preserve their meat, right, with salt. When they hunted and killed the food, salt was how they preserved the food back then, and probably still today. Salt does not take something that's bad or decayed and make it better. Okay? That's not what salt does. Salt takes something that's good and keeps it good longer before it decays. Right? So that's why they put it on the meat, to help preserve it longer. That's our role as believers in this world. We are here to preserve this world a little bit longer, to hold off the decay. And the world is falling apart. The world is in trouble. Imagine if no believers were here, how far it would decay and how fast it would decay. That day is coming, right? The day is coming. But that is our role. God is saying, I need you to preserve. I need you to help this world hold on a little bit longer, to do your best to preserve, to keep the decay at bay. Now, I don't know why God chose us. I will honestly tell you, 30 years ago when Word of Life sent me to South Africa, and I was excited then, and I'm still excited, and I still love to be there, but I have no idea what they were thinking. Right? I was a young buck, had no idea what I was doing. I thought I knew everything. I thought I could do anything. Right? Now, 30 years later, I realize, I really didn't know. But I jumped in full force, and I went crazy, and I love serving God. And I wanted to do the best that I could. some way, some reason, God has chosen to use us to hold back the decay of this world. He has asked you, as a believer, to hold back the decay of this world. And so we need to be able to do this. Sorry, I'm behind on my clicker. Sorry, let me get caught up a little bit. There we go. I'm there. Ray Pritchard put it this way. Ray Pritchard said it this: we who follow Jesus Christ are to be the moral disinfectant stopping the spread of evil. We are to be the conscience of the community, speaking out for what is true and right. That's our role as Christians. And then salt gives taste. Creates taste. Yep, I'm sure you've all heard the saying, you can't lead a horse to water, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Well, you put a spoonful of salt in his mouth, he's going to drink something. All right? He gets a thirst, he gets a hankering for some water. And that, again, is what God has asked us to be, to create a thirst for God in this world. So when I was walking through the airport, right, and they're all grumpy, and then one guy's like, why aren't you upset? I'm like, man, let me tell you why. And I have an opportunity to share a little bit about God. And so the one man, I can't remember his name. I asked him, and he told me, and I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names. He said, well, let me tell you my story. And he started telling me his story. He was a foster kid. He was adopted, and his parents didn't believe in God and any of that type of stuff. So, once he got away from there, then he's like going through all of these. And I think he was church shopping to the most thing of it. I tried the Catholics, I tried the Mormons, I tried this. My girlfriend's this, so I'm trying this. And he was going through all of this. And he's like, so what do you believe? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. Technically, I would go to a Baptist church, so should I say Baptist? But in my head, I'm like, no, that's not the right answer, because he has tried all of the churches. I said, it's about my relationship with Jesus Christ. You can try all of those things, but really what it comes down to, and the most important thing, is where you're going to spend eternity. And I was able to share the gospel with him. Now, I don't know if he made a decision or not. I actually saw him when we got off, because we didn't sit in the same spot. And so he came, we walked out together when Pastor Mark was picking me up. But we have an opportunity, and I'm praying that I've created a thirst in his life. He's going to want to go somewhere and ask some questions. Now, let me close off with this, because I see my time is gone. My mom has been involved in ministry for years and years and years. And she's like one of my heroes. My mom and dad, I love my parents. I love what they've done for God, and I love how they've served God in so many different ways. And I was sitting with my mom this particular furlough, and I was asking her about some of the ministry things she has done. And at one point in her life, she kind of, not walked away from church, but kind of quit all of the ministries at church and became a social worker in our community. And I said, Mom, why did you choose to do that? And she said this phrase, and it's kind of stuck with me. And I could take an analogy and to go too far, so I'll try not to go too far. She goes, I was tired of sitting in the shaker. I needed to get out of the salt shaker. Right? And I thought about this passage. I was thinking about all of this. How often do we as a church just sit in the shaker? Right? Salt only works when it becomes into contact with what it's touching, right? So the food gets better when salt touches the food. It holds back the decay when it gets onto the meat, right? And it creates the thirst when it touches a person's mouth, when it touches their life. So she was like, I was tired of salting the salt. I needed to get out of the shaker. And I thought, man, that's what we need today, isn't it? We need a few more people to get out of the salt shaker and to get out there and to change and to make influence on people's lives. Mary and I get to do that in South Africa, and I love it to no end. It's the most amazing thing, and I am so privileged and humbled that God chose us to do that. But no matter where Mary and I are, this is what we would be doing, because it's who we are. It's what we believe. And as a Christian, it's what we've been commanded to do. We've been told, you are the salt. Not one day you'll be salt, or maybe sometime you'll be better. No, you are the salt, and you need to do your job. I think about your homes. I think about where you work. I think about your neighborhood. Are you a positive influence? Are you the salt that God wants you to be? Or are you stuck in the shaker? Or are you that salt that just has no real purpose other than to be thrown out under the foot of men? What kind of salt are you? And are you out of the shaker? I think that's such an important thing for each and every one of us. All right, let me close with this. I'm going to zip through a bunch of slides. See, I had a whole bunch more to tell you. I had a whole bunch, and I'm already 5 minutes past. I'm treading lightly on the potluck. If your food is burnt, blame Sean. It was him. No, I'm just... Deal. All right. There we go. I wanted to thank you guys for your partnership with us. One, we can't do what we do without you, right? I am still amazed at how God has put together our team and how he has established all the people who are involved in our ministry and things. But continue to be praying for us. Like I said, we leave Wednesday, heading back to South Africa. We leave Wednesday, we get there on Friday. All right? It's a long trip for us and things. We were able to raise about $530 new support, which does not get us to fully funded yet, but we're just praying and allowing God to do that. And then another thing that we're working on is the property in Durban. So I'm calling it our last phase. I don't know what it is, but the last phase, because I want to be done with this. All right, I want to take that hat off and be full-time in ministry and not doing, and I mean, this is you guys. In years past, we've had some issues with some of the funding, not on our side, but in other things. And so I've put on that contractor hat, and I'm kind of managing things a lot tighter than we used to, and things. And we've got a lot done. But now we're at the last little spot to be able to do this. So the house where we are staying, where Mary and I are staying, has to be redone. And then the driveway has to be redone to keep us under for codes. So we have to be a little bit wider, and we have to have parking, a whole bunch of little details you don't really care. But we need to raise $44,000, probably with the Iran thing. It's probably going to be closer to 45, 46, because prices of everything has gone up, type of thing. But we're trying to finish this so that we can be done. And I am so excited to be done with that. And it'll be good for the ministry, too, because people will recognize Word of Life is here to stay. They finished their property. They got this stuff going on. We're using it for God's glory and things along those lines. But ultimately, I want to thank you guys. Really do appreciate each and every one of you and your involvement with us, your prayer for us, your giving to us and being involved. And again, I say this everywhere I go, anytime you want to come visit, now the property, we have a cottage fully renovated, all right? And we have intern rooms fully finished, all right? So years ago, I was like, you can't, it's hard to visit because we didn't have any space for you. Now we've got it, all right? We've got space, so you can come and visit anytime you want. And we would love to have you come over and join us and visit when you can. And there are some details. Also, there are prayer cards here, and there is tea things here. If you would like, it's Rooibos tea. So it's Afrikaans for red bush. So it's a naturally caffeine-free. So if you're a coffee, I know, you know. But if you're a healthy person, caffeine-free, and it's a really great tea. But I will say, come and have one, take two, it's okay. But whatever is left goes to Sean. So he'll be monitoring who takes and who does not, keeping a close eye on who and how many you take. But feel free to take those. And again, thank you guys so much for it. Let me close off on a word of prayer, and I'll turn it back over. Let's pray.